Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Ruth. I'm one of the pastors here, and it is my great pleasure to be speaking to you this morning as we finish up our series, Stories of Faith. Now, as you might know, through this series, we've been looking at what really is faith. What does it look like in practice? What does faith do? Because we know from our previous series on James that faith is something that does things. It's not just something that's believing certain concepts, but it actually acts. And in fact, as James put it, faith without actions is dead. That's it. And so we've been looking at stories from the Bible that provide us with examples of faith in action. You might remember we looked in the first week at Esther, who bravely went to speak to the king to stop a grave injustice. We looked at Abraham, who left his home and who learned something at least about not trying to manipulate and control situations, but trust God. We looked at the widow of Zarephath. We did that a couple of weeks ago, who trusted God to provide. And then adults also looked at David and Goliath. You might remember that. We thought decapitation was not really suitable for children. So we looked instead with the kids at Joseph. And then our littlest friends have also looked at the brave big sister Miriam, as well as the little boy Samuel. So these are all people who are deeply flawed, made lots and lots of mistakes, and yet provided us with examples of faith by the things that they did to show that they trusted God. They were all very brave in their own way, as today's example was too. This is about a woman who washed Jesus' feet, which was a brave thing to do, as we'll see in a moment. So today's story is found in the Gospel of Luke. There's actually a similar story in each of the four Gospels, all a little bit different, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're just going to focus on Luke's story. I actually think it is very interesting to look at the different ones and see why they emphasize different things and whether they're the same and so on. But this morning, we're just going to focus on Luke's story. So you try and forget all the other stories, just Luke's story and what Luke or the writer of Luke's gospel is trying to tell us through this story. And the story is about a woman whose name we don't know, who comes uninvited to a dinner party. Now, we could just read this story out of the Bible, but, you know, where's the fun in that? So instead, since it's Labor Day weekend and those tend to be chaotic services, we have a tradition to keep. We're going to ask the kids to come and help us act out this story. So kids, you can grab a beanbag and come and sit in the middle. If you could stay further back than this. Yeah, you can go beanbag. Grab a beanbag. Grab a beanbag. Come on. Grab a beanbag and come and sit, but up to there, because we need this front space. We're going to bring this story to life. I've never seen The Chosen, but I'm told it's really good, really accurate. This is going to be way better, way more historically accurate and professional, believe me. Yeah, right. All right, have a seat, have a seat. Now, first of all, I need, well, we don't have any kids today. Are you hiding, or we just don't have many today? All right, well, it's going to be a limited cast. And anybody else? Any other takers? Some of the back, not deciding? Yeah, maybe. Well, if you feel brave, you're very welcome. Okay, first I need a volunteer to be Simon, whose house this is. Who would like to be Simon? Needs to be able to read. You good? Yeah? Come on then, you can be Simon. Let's get some props here. Now, Simon. Oops, sorry. I said I wouldn't walk in front of the speakers. All right. So, Simon, let's give you a coat so we remember who you are. You're a very serious person. Come up here, Simon. Very serious, so we're going to give you a serious looking coat. There you go. Now, Simon owns this beautiful house that we're going to imagine, because we didn't have much of a budget for scenery. And Simon, you're a Pharisee. That means you're a religious person. So here you go. Here's your Bible. Got it? Is it heavy? Heavy. It's what? Oh, this coat is, oh, okay, well, there you go. So yes, it is heavy, but it's a tough job being religious. So now you need to look very religious, okay? Very serious. And Pharisee, so you would learn this, you would follow all the rules in here, you would pray a lot, you would come to the temple probably every day. Imagine that, kids. Imagine if you could come to church every single day. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Not super convinced. Okay, now, Simon, you decide that you are going to host a big party, okay? So we're going to need to set the table. We don't actually have a table, but we're just going to use our imaginations a bit. Scholars tell us that most of these tables, they were kind of low tables that people would sit on. And scholars do say that they probably, most of them, were not actually made out of IKEA storage bins. I don't know, they say that, but we're going to just use our imagination here. And Simon, can you grab those two, please? Just going to lay these out. I'm going to make a table. Yep. And this is just going to look so impressive. You're going to be amazed. Put this table together. There we go. I know, right? Everybody's a critic. No, this is going to look so like a table. You're going to be amazed. Watch this. Watch this. Who said that? It's too big, too small. That must mean it's just right then. Right, here we go. It does look like, thank you. Somebody said it looks like a table. Christopher, critic. Thank you. Golden star. Thank you. Like a stage. There you go. So here's our table. And people would come and would recline at this table. So that means they would kind of lay down. Let me just borrow this one to show you. And they would do it on cushions, right? Or perhaps beanbags. Who knows? They might have. And they would kind of recline like this, right? So Simon went, oh, there you are. You can't put that down. You got to carry that all the time. So, yeah, you're going to invite a bunch of people. Now, Simon would actually only invite boys, but we have not many boys at all. So we're just going to waive that rule. So let's have 4 of you or 5 of you. 5 of you. Oh, I don't know. 1, 2. I need readers later. 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5. Sorry. I'm going to use you for something else. 5. Come on over here. Bring your beanbags, and you can sit around this side of the table. Okay, so we can all see you. Well, I think it's perfect. All right. So, did you want to come over here, sweetheart? Did you want to come? No. So, do we have one more person? Do you want to come? Okay. All right. You can come. All right. Now, what have you got on your feet, guys? You got shoes? Everybody else got shoes on? Yeah. What do you think people used to wear? They would wear sandals, right? They would wear sandals. Oh, perfect. Yes, they would wear sandals just like this, shock your feet. And they would walk everywhere, right? They didn't have cars. They didn't have buses. They would, I knew you'd be trouble. They would walk, right? And the streets were just made of dirt. And animals would wander everywhere. And where there are animals, there is animal poop, right? People would also throw out their trash and their wastewater. So the roads would be really dirty. So your feet, when you arrive, would be really dirty. So you would take off your shoes and socks. So can you take off, well, you wouldn't have socks on, but take off your shoes. Take off your shoes. Now, your feet are probably not super dirty, right? But they might be sweaty, but don't worry. Since COVID, we do have air purifiers, so we should be okay. But yeah, take them off. And if you want to be more authentic, we do have some animal poop. So would anyone like to come and step in the animal poop? No method actors here? No? You don't want to? Guys are no fun. I thought that would be at a bit a new level. All right, so often, have you taken your shoes and socks off? You have to take your socks off as well, sweetheart. All right, so often when you went to someone's house, there would be a place where you could wash your feet. So if you would like to, you can come and wash your feet, guests, and dry them on these towels. All right, you good? To wash your feet, and then you can sit nicely at the table with nice, clean feet. All right. You gonna wash your feet? Good. All right. And then when you've done that, you can come and lean back down. So Christopher, are you not taking your shoes off, sweetie? Or you got a problem with the laces? That, you see, that was the advantage of sandals. So you'd kind of just lay down like this. And that's how you could eat, right? Now, Simon also invited Jesus. Do I have someone who would like to be Jesus? Needs to be a good reader. Edith. You want to be our Jesus? Let's give you a coat so we remember who you are. Here we go. Edith. Now, Jesus, we're told, wasn't given any water to wash his feet. Now, we don't know why. Luke doesn't tell us. Maybe Jesus came a little later. The water got put away. Maybe nobody showed Jesus where the water was. Or maybe nobody got water that day. Maybe Simon's other guests lived close by. Maybe they had been in the house for a while and they didn't have dirty feet. We don't know. But Jesus wasn't given any water to wash his feet. Now, that wasn't a huge insult, but it was a little awkward. It didn't make Jesus feel special and particularly welcome. I imagine it's rather like if you went in winter and you go to someone's house, go to a party with your coat on, and no one offers to take your coat, right? That'd be kind of weird. It's like, what do? Do you just like slip it in a corner? Did you say something? It's all awkward and doesn't make you feel very welcome. Now, ladies would have a role at this party. You would be allowed to cook and serve the food. Hooray! All right, so if three of you want to come, you can set the table. We've got plates and food. So Jesus, you just have to leave your shoes on, I'm afraid. You don't get any water. You can just sit at the table. Some people from the back, do you want to come? Is that the table? Yeah. Come on. No, you don't want to. Okay. Anybody from there? No, you can't if you're a guest. Okay. Celia, Addie, Gemma, you want to come? Set the table. Do you want to? Yeah, come on. Set the table. Yep, put all the stuff on the table. Very nice. Now, there was no TV or YouTube videos in these days, so people had to make their own entertainment. And one thing that they would do to entertain themselves and to find out what was going on was to come to people's houses who were having a dinner party, important people's houses like this one, and they would come. They weren't invited. This was, again, guys only, I'm afraid, just the men, but they were allowed to come and watch a dinner party. So Simon, you can have a seat at your party. Want to go and have a... Well, yeah, you got to take that with you. You can sit here in the middle. The place of honor. Well, that was your seat. Oh, sorry. There you go. All right. So, what was I saying? I don't know. So Simon was kind of like an influencer, if you will, right? So people wanted to know, what is Simon eating these days? And who is Simon meeting with? And what's he discussing? What are his opinions on what's going on? And so they would come and they would stand back here against this imaginary wall. They weren't allowed to get too close to the table, but they could see and listen to what was going on. Again, only guys. But this time, a woman came. Yes, Addie, she definitely wants to be the woman. Let's give you a shawl. A shawl. It's one of these. Oh, you look lovely. Very, very nice. Okay, so she came uninvited. And so Simon, he's kind of at the top of the social ladder, right? He's a man, he's religious, probably has a bit of wealth, he's very well respected, kind of top of the social ladder. This woman, sorry, Addie, kind of the bottom. Not only is she a woman, now people didn't have that much of a respect for women in those days, but we're also told that she was a sinner. That means she did bad things. Now, Luke doesn't tell us what she did. We have no idea. But she didn't keep all the rules like Simon does with his Bible. And as a sidebar to the adults, there is nothing in the text to suggest that she was a prostitute, despite the centuries of misogynist traditions to the contrary. The word used for sinner is the same word that Simon Peter uses of himself, and I've never heard anyone accuse him of being a prostitute. So there we go. But she was a sinner. So she had done something bad, and everybody knew it. So they thought she was a bad woman. And she came, she came with this. She came with some ointment in a jar. And the jar was probably shaped something like this. It would have a narrow neck, and they would break the neck, please don't, but they would break the neck to get the perfume out. So this was a perfumed, fancy ointment that she brought to this dinner party. Now, there are a few things strange about this woman. First, of course, she was here. She was in this religious man's house when it should have just been the guys. Second, she had her hair down. Now, we don't know, usually women, in fact, often you have your hair up, don't you? You often have bunches, but today you've got it down. And usually women would have it pinned back or with ribbons, and they would tie it back. But there were a number of reasons why women might have their hair down. It was a little unusual, but there are a number of reasons why. Yes, could be because they were trying to say they were sexually available. No hint of that here. They also would have their hair down if they were mourning. They would wear their hair loose to show that they were so sad, they were so grieving, that they didn't care about their appearance, and they would wear their, your hair looks lovely down. I'm not saying you don't care about your appearance, but in those days, it was kind of to show how sad that they were. They could also have their hair down when they were trying to express humility. So women would have their hair loose and they would go barefoot, and men would go barefoot when they were, you don't have to, because Luke doesn't tell us she was barefoot. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. We don't have to. So you can leave them on. But I've got more things for you to do in a minute. You'll like this. So they would come with their head down and their shoes off, and men would come with their shoes off. When they were saying, when they were coming to ask an important person, rich person, for something, they were pleading for something, or when they were saying thank you for something. So the point of it was to show that they were very simple, very humble, and very grateful. So that was another time when people would wear their hair down. The third thing that was strange about this woman is that she was crying. That's so cute. Like a baby. No, it doesn't say she was crying like a baby. Can you cry? Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So she was crying. She was weeping. Now, we don't know why. Luke doesn't tell us, but he does say that she was weeping. Now, this woman did not do what she should do. Well, she shouldn't have been there, but even if she'd been a guy, she should have stayed up by the imaginary wall. Instead, who's Jesus? Oh, Edith. So guys, you're meant to have your shoes off and your feet back. God, you got to listen. So you need to recline and put your feet out the back, right? So you're like this, Edith, with your feet out back, right? And you shouldn't have your shoes on. Oh, dear. Good. Yes, great. Okay, so this is what she did. You listening? She went behind Jesus and she cried so much. Wait till I've done all the instructions, right? She cried so much that she washed his dirty, filthy feet. Then she took her hair and she dried it with her hair. Ew, is that what you said? And then she broke up in this and she kissed his feet, kissed them all over. You ready for this, Edith? And then she broke up in the ointment and she rubbed it in his feet. So do you want to do that, Edith? No. Of course you don't. You have to really, really love someone to want to do that, right? Otherwise you'd be like, get your stinky feet away from me, right? So you have to really love someone. But that's what she did. You don't need to. You can just go and sit next to Edith. Next to Jesus. Sorry, falling out of character here. Okay. But that is what she did. And everybody at the table was shocked. They put down their food. You're not eating your food anyway, don't you like it? You're going to eat it. All right. So they put down their food and they gasped. They were shocked at this woman. Oh, thank you. Somebody's shocked. Oh. They put down the wine and they were shocked. Yes. Okay. They were very shocked. It doesn't actually say that they gasped, but they probably did. But they weren't that shocked at what the woman did so much as the fact that Jesus allowed her to touch his feet because they thought she's a bad woman. She's a sinner, so you shouldn't have anything to do with her. And Simon, why is Simon taking his coat off? Simon, it's itchy. Oh, it was itchy. Well, that was it those days, you know. I mean, it would be like that. Okay, so Simon thought he knew all the rules, right? He's got this big book of rules, and he knows that good people shouldn't have anything to do with bad people. So he was very shocked at Jesus and thought, Jesus can't be a prophet. Jesus doesn't know who people are and what they're all about, because if Jesus knew, he wouldn't let this bad woman touch his feet. But of course, Jesus did know. Jesus knew not just about the woman, but knew about Simon and what was in Simon's heart. So Jesus grabbed his microphone and said,
Simon, I have something to tell you.
And Simon said, take this.
Tell me, teacher.
And Jesus started to tell them a story. Once he said there were two people who were very desperate. They needed money. Can I have two people who are very desperate? Dana and Celia. Oh, in fact, you're so desperate you don't have a coat. You should have something up. And they were very, very desperate for money. We don't know why. They really needed some money. Presumably, they didn't have family that they could borrow from. So maybe they were scared. Maybe they were sad. Maybe they were hungry. We don't know. But they did what you would only do if you were desperate. They went to see a moneylender. Can I have a moneylender? Charlotte, and be a moneylender. You definitely have a coat. You have a fancy red coat. You got lots of money. Let's put your coat on. It's itchy. Complaints that is. And you have money. Now, one of these people came and borrowed 5 coins, 5 days' wages. So come on, somebody, you can go to the front, actually. Give them 5. And what the other person borrowed 50 coins, 50 days' wages. How would you feel about that? Be happy? Oh, okay. But things, unfortunately, went from bad to worse for these people. They spent their money and they couldn't pay it back. Now, what would happen in those days if you couldn't pay back your debts? Well, it got pretty serious, actually. You could end up being thrown in prison. You could be sold as a slave. I know, right? Your family members could be thrown in prison or sold as a slave. You could be made to work until you'd paid it all back. So this was very scary. That was your cue, guys. This was very scary. You owe money. Oh, you don't look very scared. Can you look a little bit scared? Oh, okay. All right. I don't think you're going to be in the chosen, to be honest. But miraculously, the moneylender said,
I forgive you. You don't owe anything anymore.
How do you think they felt? Gosh, God, you were sold. You thought you could get put in prison. You thought you could get sold as a slave. You were up all night. You were worried. And suddenly he said, it's okay. You don't owe anything. You would be ecstatic. You would be so relieved. You might well burst into tears. You would be so happy. Wow, you guys really. Have a seat. Have a seat. I can't take it anymore. The expressions of emotion are overwhelming. Please just have a seat. Great God, great job. All right, well, what's this got to do with anything? Well, Jesus said,
Simon, who will you love, the moneylender the most? The person who is forgiven a little, or the person who is forgiven a lot?
and Simon said in a bit of a grumpy voice,
I suppose it was just the one who was forgiven a lot.
and Jesus said,
Correct.
hooray. You are hard work this morning, guys. I don't know what's going on, but you are hard work. No energy. Yes, that was correct. And Jesus also said something else that was too long to fit on a post-it note. He said this. He said, do you see this woman, Simon? Do you see her, this woman? And Simon thought he did, right? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she's poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you that her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. And turning to the woman, Jesus said, excuse me. No.
Your sins are forgiven.
And when he said that, the people at the table were angry. They started grumbling. Who is this person thinks he can forgive sins? You. Yes, angry. Angry, Christopher. Angry. Who is this person who thinks he can forgive sins? They were mad. But Jesus said to the woman,
Your faith has saved you. Go in peace.
very good. Thank you, guys. You can stand up, take a bow, leave your cups where they are, go back to your seat. Wow, I have never seen them so low energy. You should see them in the class. Thank you very much. They are bouncing off the walls, and here it's very Thank you. All right, so guys, before you go back to your seats, grab a paper and pencil, and this will help you to stay following along with us as we go through the rest of the message. You can just leave them, guys. Just leave it. Just leave everything. It's fine. Just leave it. Go back to your seats. That's fine. All right. Thank you. It's fine. All right. Very good. Well, that was almost as though we were grab a pencil and paper. Grab and your shoes. Yes, you might need your shoes. Grab a pencil and paper. It was almost like we were transported back in time, wasn't it? I mean, that was just so riveting, so realistic. Yeah. Levity aside, I actually find this story a little bit uncomfortable. It makes me feel a little bit awkward. It's you know, you can imagine the scene, and it does feel a little awkward. Now, nobody actually complained. If you read it in the text, nobody actually complains about what this woman did. It's just about who she is to be doing this. So culturally, I think what she was doing was probably not super shocking or strange a thing to do, but it's definitely awkward. You know, Simon is being a very ungracious host. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. You get invited somewhere, but when you get there, you kind of get the feeling that you're not super welcome. Have you ever had that feeling? It's awkward, right? It doesn't feel good. And Jesus faced the situation of not being given any water for his feet. What was he meant to do? Should he say something? Should he just kind of pretend he's not noticed? Doesn't want to make a fuss? It's just kind of, it just kind of feels a bit yucky, right? It's a bit awkward. And then he was probably deep in conversation when this woman comes up and starts making a scene behind him, you know, sobbing and kissing his feet. And again, what is Jesus meant to do? Does he turn away from the table and away from the conversation to address this woman? Does he just kind of hope she, you know, gets it out of her system and goes on her way? This can't have been a fun, relaxing evening for Jesus. It's an awkward story, but Luke includes it. He thinks it's important. Now, whether he found this story, which is different from the one of the other gospel writers, or whether he took one of their stories and refashioned it, either way, he is telling a story in a particular way for a particular reason. So what are we to learn from this story? And particularly, what are we to learn about faith, given the series that we're in, and given the fact that Jesus says to the woman, your faith has saved you. Your faith has healed you. Your faith has made you whole. Go in peace. Well, first, let's look at the context. This is one in a series of stories in Luke chapter 7 that talk about faith. The chapter starts with the story of a centurion who was a soldier in charge of 80 men. Yes, 80, because at this time, the Roman army was downsizing. Fun fact. So he would have had about 80 soldiers that he was in charge of. He would have been a foreigner, an outsider, someone who really loved Israel and had built a synagogue for the people. And so he was male, he was powerful, he was clearly rich, he was God-fearing, he was greatly respected. In fact, the Jewish leaders came on his behalf to speak to Jesus and ask Jesus to heal his servant. And they said, he deserves it, he's worthy of this. This was a respected person. And the centurion had great faith in Jesus. He said, you don't need to come to me, just give the word, and I know it will happen. And Jesus said of him, I haven't seen faith this strong in all of Israel. And in that same chapter, we also have the story of John the Baptist, whom Jesus called the greatest of the prophets. He said, I tell you, amongst those born of women, there is no one greater than John. And John sent some of his followers to ask Jesus if he really was the Messiah. Now, John was someone we would expect to be full of faith, but in this particular instance, it seems like he's got questions, he's got doubts. And Jesus told John's messengers, look at what I'm doing. Look, I'm healing the sick, I'm raising the dead, I'm preaching good news to the poor. So again, this is not about abstract beliefs. This is about faith in action, faith that does things. And then we have the story of this woman, the sinful woman, held up as a model of faith. Now, unlike the centurion, she's not powerful. She's not well respected. Quite the opposite. She is despised. No one was pleading on her behalf, saying that she deserved help. In fact, they were saying the opposite. They were saying, if you knew who she is, you'd have nothing to do with her. You'd tell her to go away. And yet, she has faith. The woman didn't stay at the back against the wall. She came up behind Jesus. She knelt. She wet his feet with her tears. She dried them with her hair. She kissed his feet. She broke open the oil. She poured ointment on it. She had faith. And that was the wrong page. Sorry, just 1 second. That's quite a mess here. She had faith. According to Jesus' story, the woman believed and acted on the good news that she had been forgiven. There was no debt hanging over her. She was free. She didn't need to live under oppressive fear and shame anymore. She could lift up her head. That's why she went in there. She wanted to express her appreciation, her gratitude. It's not explicitly stated, but the implication is that she's heard Jesus preaching this good news to the poor. She's heard him saying that she's free, that she's forgiven, and she believed that message. She thought it really did apply to her. And so she's got all this love, all this gratitude that she wants to show to Jesus. And that's why she does these things. She came purposefully with her jar of ointment to express that gratitude and love. And that, says Jesus, is faith that heals and saves. Believing in God's forgiveness and living life in that reality of that forgiveness, full of love and humility and service, recognizing that we all incur debts, we all mess up, and we all need forgiveness. And we've all been miraculously forgiven. We are free. And so we can embrace and live in that reality. That is faith. Even Simon had messed up. Even Simon, who said his prayers and followed all the rules and went to church, went to the temple, and followed, did everything. Maybe he didn't owe much. Maybe it was just 5 coins next to this woman's 50 coins. But he still couldn't pay it back. He couldn't make everything right. He needed grace too, but he didn't live in that reality. He didn't accept the fact that he also needed forgiveness. And we know that because he didn't show love. For all his religion, for all his apparent goodness, Simon wasn't a model of faith. Simon saw a sinful woman and despised her, and despised Jesus for not rejecting her. He saw her actions as inappropriate and shocking. Jesus, characteristically, saw things very differently. He rejected Simon's premise that good people have nothing to do with sinners. In fact, just a few verses previously in chapter 7, verse 34, Jesus notes that he is known as a friend of sinners. And in this story, Jesus beautifully and tenderly takes the awkwardness of the situation, the awkwardness of the woman's actions, and reinterprets them in a bit of an unusual way, but in a way that gives the woman dignity. How like Jesus? Jesus says, Simon, you're the host here, but you didn't make me feel welcome. Literally, in terms of word order, it says, water to me, you didn't give. A kiss to me, you didn't give. With oil on my head, you didn't anoint. But by contrast, though, Jesus declares, this woman washed my feet with her tears. She dried them with her hair. She didn't just give me a kiss on the cheek. She's not stopped kissing my feet. She didn't just put a drop of oil on my head. She's poured ointment on my feet. You are not the generous, attentive host, Simon. She is. The title of this story in the New International Version, and actually in most other versions, is Jesus Anointed by a Sinful Woman. Now, these titles, of course, were not part of the original manuscripts. They've been added by an editor. But I find this title a little bit ironic because a major point of this story is that that is not who she is. Jesus said, do you see this woman, Simon? And Simon thought, yeah, I see this woman. She's a sinful woman, someone we should reject and have nothing to do with. But Jesus said, no, she is a forgiven woman, a saved and healed and restored woman, a woman of faith and love. And then we have this beautiful coda. Jesus says to the woman, your sins are forgiven. Why does he say that? Because she knows that already, right? Jesus' story about the moneylender told us that. She is expressing love because she knows she has been forgiven a lot. So why does Jesus say that? Well, the next verse tells us, it reads, the other guests began to say to themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Jesus wasn't just proclaiming forgiveness. With all the authority of God, he was granting it. In this statement, Jesus revealed to the woman something of his true identity, something that Simon and his friends couldn't possibly grasp. They were offended at the very suggestion that Jesus could forgive sins. But Jesus told this woman that her love and her gratitude, they were not inappropriate, quite the opposite. Jesus is the very one who brings forgiveness, who has the authority to transform a sinful woman into a forgiven, restored, set-free woman. For all its initial awkwardness, I think this is a beautiful, tender story. And I want to close with 3 points. First, we are forgiven. That is very, very, very good news. I don't think our actors really quite caught that when they were forgiven their debt, but it is great news. It is news to be celebrated. We don't need to live in shame or fear. No matter what we've done, Jesus both declares and grants us our forgiveness. And knowing this, we can live in the freedom of that reality. And that heals us, that saves us, that makes us whole. Second, faith produces love. Embracing the reality of being forgiven and free produces gratitude and love, both for Jesus, who forgives us and declares us forgiven, and for other people. We recognize that they're just like us. They're debtors that mess up just like we mess up and need grace just like we need grace. People like us who need to be forgiven and are forgiven. People who don't need to live in fear and shame anymore. They can live free. And then thirdly, love is vulnerable. Questions are great. Simon did a good thing, a wise thing in inviting Jesus to his table and talking to him and listening to him. Wrestling with who Jesus is, that's really important. And Jesus loved questions. We know that from the Gospels. In the Gospels, he's asked 187 questions. He answers almost none of them. And he himself asks 307 questions. Google's great, isn't it? I did not count all those, but I believe it's true because it was on a couple of places. Questions are great, though. Questions are really good. We welcome questions, even doubts. Doubts are good. Things that are welcome as we wrestle through them and figure out who Jesus is. Even John, the greatest of the prophets, he had doubts, and that was okay. Jesus was willing to engage that and respond with that. But in this story, there is a very stark contrast between the two main characters, between Simon and the woman. Ultimately, Luke tells us, Jesus is not someone to critically observe from a distance and critique and find fault with. Jesus is someone to kneel before, someone to love, someone to welcome, someone to serve, even if that means that we are misunderstood and misjudged. And this woman she was misunderstood. Even today, we call her the sinful woman and dismiss her as probably a prostitute. Jesus also was misunderstood and misjudged. Clearly, he's not a prophet if he welcomes this woman. Clearly, he doesn't know who it is who touches him. Love is vulnerable, but love is the proof of faith. And we can dare to be vulnerable because we know that we are forgiven, we are accepted and loved no matter what. This conversation occurred at a dinner table. We're going to take communion in a minute if the band want to come up. This conversation happened at a dinner table, and many of Jesus's most meaningful conversations took place at a table over a meal. Eating and drinking together as a community can be a place where we are challenged. In a few minutes, we are going to have a potluck together outside. And I'd really encourage you to stay for that. Even if you didn't bring anything, don't worry. We always have lots of food. You are very welcome. Please stay. Lunch out there is as much part of church as the service is in here. It's where we connect with one another, where we voice our doubts and our questions. It's where we serve one another, where we support one another as fellow debtors set free, where we show love and gratitude for one another. But the gift and challenge of community is also symbolically expressed each week when we take communion. In Greco-Roman culture, as in many other cultures, one way to express humility and simplicity was to go barefoot, as we mentioned earlier. And this morning, I want to invite you to take communion barefoot. Now, there's no compulsion. Nobody's going to judge you if you don't want to do that. That's fine. I realize it is a bit strange in our culture. But I invite you to do that as an expression of humility and in recognition that we are all in this together. We all come from the same place. We are all in need of grace. We are all totally forgiven. No matter who we are all sinners, whether it's big, little, in between, however good we think we are, however bad we think we are all in this together. We are all children of God. We are all invited to eat and drink together without hierarchy, without division. Everyone included and loved and cherished. As usual, we have gluten-free crackers at the tables at the sides here and in the middle, and grape juice. Everybody is very welcome to take communion. At Cedar Ridge, we let parents decide when they feel their children are ready for that. But from our perspective, everybody is very welcome to take communion. There are other ways that you can respond to. We have candles at the back that you might like to light as a form of prayer. We have a station for Ukraine at the back right if you want to pray or write out a prayer there. You can also write out prayers and put them in the frames under the Journey and Grow banners, and a team of people will pray for you during the week. You might also want to visit our racial justice stations here at the front. You might want to just sit and listen to the music, whatever feels appropriate for you. I'd encourage you to respond as you feel fit, with or without your shoes. I'm just going to say a prayer now, and then let's respond. Dear Jesus, I thank you so much for your tenderness and your love. I thank you for the way you responded to this woman. I thank you that you came with good news, that we are forgiven, that we are loved, that we don't need to live in shame. I pray that that message would just soak right into the deepest place in our hearts, that we would know we are loved and cherished. I pray that we would go full of joy in that knowledge and full of peace, just as you sent that woman away in peace. May we know that peace too. Amen.